So, all right. All right, we'll call the Site Plan Review Technical Advisory Committee meeting to order for July 5th. I'll note that we have a quorum. First item of business is the approval of the June 6th meeting minutes. Are there any changes or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain, I wasn't there.
One abstention. We only have one item of new business. It's a request of Aviation Avenue Group LLC applicant for a property located at 80 Rochester Avenue, or otherwise known as 100 New Hampshire Ave, requesting amended site plan approval for construction of a 101,200 square foot footprint, including 4,700 square feet of office space and associated site improvements consisting of parking, loading docks, underground utilities, landscaping, lighting, and a stormwater management system. Said property is located on Assessor Map 308, Lot 1, and lies within the Pease Industrial District. Welcome.
Thank you, Peter. Neil Hansen with Ty & Bond, civil engineer for the project. With us for the project team, Joe Gohegan up here at the table, Eben Tormey is behind me, and the project attorney is John Boson, who's also sitting back behind us. So we're here for an amended site approval for the property at 80 Rochester, 100 New Hampshire Ave, at the Pease Trade Port. This amended approval is, we're coming in with this amended plan as the applicant is now has a tenant signed to lease this space. So we've amended the plans to meet their specific needs. So the proposed building is now a 101,000 square foot building with 30 loading bays in the rear and 68 parking spaces on the southern end of the site, with access for passenger vehicles from New Hampshire Ave and truck traffic off of Rochester Ave. The drainage for the site, it's very similar to the original site plan approval for this site. Includes stormwater collection and detention on the south end of the site, followed by a jellyfish filtration treatment unit prior to connecting into the existing city's storm drain in the shoulder of New Hampshire Ave. Utilities, again, very similar to the original site plan approval for the site. Sewer and gas and electric are coming off of Rochester in the rear of the site, with water coming off of New Hampshire Ave in the front of the site. We've also included landscape plans and photometrics in the submission that were all amended for this revised building footprint and site layout. We did receive comments from, mostly from DPW last week, and we're able to go through and address those and get some amended plans prepared. Those were able to get sent out to the stormwater peer reviewer on Friday, which was the first comment we received, to have this re-reviewed by Underwood, who did the original peer review for this site. So I'll go through the remainder of those comments now as well. And I think we have a couple follow-up questions on a couple of them, but generally we didn't have any issues with making these revisions as requested. So the first comment again was on the stormwater peer review. So again, we had submitted those back to Underwood on Friday, and they're in the process of reviewing those. All work in the right of way and all utility work will require third-party inspection during construction, and we acknowledge that. Trailer storage stall length must meet trailer length. Move and widen adjacent driveways so vehicles do not enter parking lot into trailer storage. So we increased the length of the trailer storage to, I believe it is 55 feet for the 53-foot trailers. Yep, 55 feet. And then we also realigned, there's an emergency connection between the vehicle parking in the front, which will be for employees, and then the rear. We shifted that over so it now aligns with the entrance off of New Hampshire and straight out the back to Rochester, so fire trucks will be able to drive straight through the site if needed. In trailer storage area, increased distance from the curb to the back of the sidewalk to 12 feet. So in increasing the length of those trailer bays and realigning the emergency connection and the driveway out to Rochester, we were able to actually pull those trailer storage areas quite a bit further than 12 feet from the back of the sidewalk. I don't have an exact dimension on it, but it's closer to 20 feet, I believe. In right-of-way, use DOT spec 60901 for vertical granite curb. We've noted that on the vertical granite curbing detail. 7, there's a series of revisions requested for the concrete sidewalk detail. We've made those revisions as requested. Remove stop lettering behind stop bars at stop signs. We've removed that from the plans and stop bar detail. Remove truck restriction signage. So this one, I'm assuming, is referring to the signage that we have on both Rochester and New Hampshire Ave restricting trucks onto Stratham Street. We had added those signs as part of the original approval at the request of PDA's peer reviewer, VHB, to restrict trucks from going down Stratham Street and getting potentially stuck on that 90-degree corner at the end. So we've kept them at this time, as that was a request of the PDA's peer reviewer. But we are open to discussing that further with the city and the PDA if you guys feel that is necessary. 10 is explain the truck access and egress plan. So based on previous discussion with the PDA, we'd added site note number 20, which states that truck traffic generated by this project shall access the adjacent highways to and from the south only. No truck traffic is allowed to and from the north of the site. So incoming deliveries would access the site from Lee Street via Aviation Avenue, and we had revised our truck turning exhibit to show that turning movement from Aviation onto Lee and then coming straight across into the site from Lee. And then the traffic memo, updated traffic memo that we had also submitted spoke to the additional, or not the additional, the revised truck plan for the project, spoke to the number of truck trips. For this site and for this specific use, they're anticipating up to 4 large tractor trailers for deliveries per day, and that would be to get the goods to the site. The other truck trips from the site are home delivery trucks, and we anticipate about 30 truck trips a day for that, so that's a more large box truck style truck that would be delivering to people's houses. And so that's a significant reduction on truck trips from the original approval. While I'm on the topic of the traffic memo, the number of vehicle trips is also significantly reduced from the initial proposal. And the way this operates is the facility operates between 5 a.m. and 5 p.m., so a lot of the trips are actually off-peak hour, which is reflected in the updated trip memo that we had submitted as part of the revised submission. Comment 11 was to move the New Hampshire driveway to Newfield Street and line it up with the driveway across the street. So this one, we were looking for, I guess, some additional feedback from this group on maybe the reasoning behind that comment. The original approval had this driveway off of New Hampshire Ave as well, and we feel it's a better alignment, primarily for getting a fire truck in and back out of the site. It would be a similar distance to the Newfields and New Hampshire Ave intersection if we were to flip it onto Newfields. We would also have a number of parking spaces eliminated by making that move. So we were kind of looking for, I guess, more thought from wherever the comment came from on why that would be asked.
Yeah, it's the proximity to the Newfield Street intersection. Just having 2 intersections that close to each other is not great when you have someone taking a right out of the driveway and someone left out of here, or it's just they're very close that driveway is a little bit farther away, and lining it up would be,
So I did measure it before coming. The New Hampshire Ave driveway is 110 feet, and where you've requested is 115 feet. So it's not much different. And then also looking at it, I don't know how we would get a fire truck in and out of that entrance. There'd be a couple of sharp corners back to back. And then I don't think we'd be able to loop the ladder truck around that parking field, which is why we have the emergency connection out to the back.
That makes sense.
no way to shift
And-
everything.
And I mean, again, the other thing is the vehicles coming and going primarily are off peak. 5 a.m. is when they open, so it's likely that there's, the peak trips, there's, and Newfields isn't a very highly trafficked street at the moment anyway.
No, that's why I thought the drive would be better on Newfields, because you have less traffic to deal with. And you have one location on the main road, New Hampshire Ave, for an intersection, rather than two of them so close to together. From traffic operations and safety point, it would be better to have it on the side street, but I defer to Pat on the fire issue, if that's a concern.
Yeah, the straight shot certainly easier for us than to try and come off of Newfield.
Yep. And you're limited here on the building, you can't shift anything more.
The idea is to leave as much of the site remaining as possible for any potential future expansion. So the more of it we can leave available, the more flexibility, future flexibility.
How about moving the driveway up, where those, close to where the emergency gate is between the two, up to that end? Would that give you any more flexibility?
It's hard to say. It's not something we've anticipated looking at. And yeah, I mean, the other consideration from the applicant's perspective is they're looking to have a New Hampshire Ave address on this building. So having the primary access off of a different street would be a bit unusual.
Well, I still think having it on the side street's better, but it's not a deal killer for me.
Okay. So comment 12, show the truck access route leading to Lee Street. So we've added that Lee Street turning movement to the traffic plan, as I had mentioned previously. Widen the truck access driveway width to the width of Lee Street. So the truck access drives are 30 feet wide, and the existing width of Lee Street is 29.6 feet wide. So they're already essentially the same. So we did add a dimension on Lee Street to make that a little bit more obvious. Move sewer manhole 2 out of the truck access driveway. So when we took a look at it, there was sewer manhole 2 was about 10 or 15 feet from sewer manhole 1. So we just showed the building connection going into sewer manhole 1 and eliminated sewer manhole 2. So there's no longer a manhole in that driveway. Show
Hold
detail.
on, hold on. 1 second. It's drainage, here we go. Go directly into.
Yeah, the reason why you were going into sewer manhole 2 to begin with was we didn't want the opposing flows going into each other.
Oh, okay.
So we want you to have a sewer manhole 2, we just want you to move it 15, 20 feet to the right so it's not in the driveway.
Okay, we can add that back. That's easy.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's appreciated. Show detail for connection of new sewer main and existing sewer main. So we added that detail to sheet 506. Show drainage connection locations of all proposed catch basins. We added those to the drainage plans. Replace entire connection of PCB 26 and drain manhole 7. We added that. Show invert and drain manhole detail similar to a sewer manhole detail. We revised the drain manhole detail so the inverts match what is on the sewer detail. All tapping sleeves must be stainless steel. We've added that requirement to utility note 10. Utility note 10 has reference to the water connections to the main. Domestic and fire services may need to be spaced further apart. DPW to confirm at time of water connection application. It's acknowledged, and we'll revise that if needed when the time comes. The next two are related to the electrical conduit detail, adding concrete encasement in the right-of-way and a leader pointing at the wrong thing. We've made both of those revisions. 23, move trees out of the snow storage area. So we addressed all the conflicts between the trees and snow storage areas, and then we've also added these snow storage areas to the landscape plan, so all those conflicts or lack of conflicts are obvious. Move trees so they're not on top of any stormwater treatment devices. Similar with the snow storage, we made a couple adjustments to the trees, and then we've also shown the stormwater infrastructure on the landscaping plan faded back to show where those are located. Move trees out from behind trailer storage area or move them so they're in between the parking stalls as they do not get hit by trailers. We've addressed those conflicts primarily, again, with the shifting of the trailer storage areas further from those trees. That should no longer be a conflict point. We fixed the typo on proposed emergency access gate, and the colored plan that was included in the traffic memo, that we swapped that out with the current version of the site plan. That was that colored plan was just the original concept plan that we had approved with the PDA board. There's two additional comments that were, I believe, not from DPW. The first one was how will the current proposed operations be different than the previously approved advanced manufacturing facilities operations? I touched on that a bit with the updated traffic memo, where this is a logistics center. There's it's home delivery, so there's 4 or so larger trucks a day coming to the site with the product, and then the smaller delivery trucks will get loaded up and go out to individual residences for delivery. And those trips are about 30 trips a day for those. And again, all that's detailed in the memos, or in the trip memo. If you want, I guess, further clarification on that, I think Joe can speak to that if needed. And then the last one was, please consider utilizing solar for the roof of this project. And I spoke with Joe, and he said that they're open to looking into the feasibility of that, but given the schedule that their client has, they don't want to commit to anything at this time, but they're certainly open to looking into it. So those are the comments that we had received last Friday, and I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Can you touch on the truck access again, about the coming in airport? No trucks to the north? How?
Yeah, so that was a request of the PDA, is that all the truck traffic will come from the south, or to and from the south. So they would either, I think the idea is the larger trucks would come in via Aviation Avenue and Lee Street, and then the smaller home delivery trucks could either leave the same way or out south on New Hampshire. Likely the most direct route to the highway is going straight out Lee Street and going left down Aviation.
Yeah. I just wondered, how do you enforce something like that?
So that was part of why we had the signage on Rochester about no trucks heading north on Rochester out of the site.
Because I believe to make a truck restriction, I think it actually needs city council approval.
I'm not sure about that, and I also don't know how that works out at Pease. The other piece is, I know this came up at the PDA board, and Joe, I don't know if you want to talk to this more, but it sounded like there may be some discussion with the PDA board about having something in the lease that would put the onus on you guys. I don't know if that's accurate.
Yeah, and Mike, maybe you can speak to this in more detail, but there was a discussion around monitoring the traffic initially for the first few years to make sure we understood where it was coming in from and out to, and sort of assessing whether that was problematic in any way. But to Neil's point, the directive and feedback we'd gotten from the PDA was to keep everything to the south, and the signage was our initially proposed solution to direct them that way. You know, it's quicker on and off that way to the highway. We'll keep them out of, you know, what's to the north at Pease and potentially any residential neighborhood. So that seemed to us sort of the most efficient way to get them in and out.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Mates. I'm the Director of Engineering for the Peace Development Authority.
Have a seat closer to the mic.
Get closer to the mic.
So this property is located in the industrial zone at the Pease International Trade Port, and the idea was to try to keep the heavy truck traffic out of the business commercial zone and just keep it in the industrial zone. That meaning to Lee Street, Aviation Ave, Grafton, and then out to 95. They get, you know, go either way. We didn't want them, you know, driving down the main thoroughfare on New Hampshire Ave. And to date, the applicant has been more than accommodating and agreeing to that. I don't know about city council either. And I'm not a lawyer, but I do believe there was language in the last approval about that too, the City of Portsmouth approval. And we always reference those approvals in our leases, so that they do hold some weight.
Yeah, the truck signage that is on this plan was part of the approved plan that we currently have. So I think to Mike's point, that's already sort of gone through the planning process with that signage included, and we just carried that through to this amended plan. And then same with the sort of the legalities of it. I can't speak to that.
Yeah, it's just something that needs to be looked into, because you know, you don't want to put up signs that aren't enforceable or that aren't you know, they could ignore it and no consequences if it's not a legal ordinance.
Well, Joe, could you put something, I mean, if we put something in our lease, then your tenant would be obligated to that as well. I mean,
Yeah, I don't see any reason why we couldn't. It warrants looking into sort of how to enforce that through the ground lease and the sublease. But you know, it's something that we've already discussed with the end user and the tenant. Something they're comfortable with, but not only comfortable with, but prefer. So, yeah, we should look into it further. But it's certainly something we're open to.
we're just trying to keep the truck traffic down on the trade port as much as we can, because, you know, it's a big concern of the public and everyone else on the trade port.
Yeah. It's just such a shorter distance to get to the north, you know, going out to Gosling Road than it is to go all the way around.
Well, then we had that issue about the 90-degree corner on Stratham Street there, and then we were discussing it with the VHB, our on-call traffic engineer. They kind of recommended that we keep all the traffic to the south too. It just eliminates Stratham Street from being an issue, and it just seems more palatable to everyone else.
Yeah.
So regarding that sharp corner, both those roads are being reconstructed. It would be relatively easy at this point to change that configuration into a curve. Is that something that we're willing to look at as part of this?
That would
We're
impact-
starting from scratch, so
That would impact the subdivision that we already completed.
not necessarily. I think you could probably just shift the sidewalk over. I'm not talking about changing the sidewalk and changing the subdivision line. I'm just talking about changing the radius on that and changing the radius on the exterior of the curve too, so it's not a square, it's a curve.
Yeah, I don't see why that, you know, couldn't be done. But at the same time, if we're trying to stop trucks from going that way anyway,
Well, that's totally, yeah. I mean, I understand that, but it's ridiculous to have that sharp corner there. Especially when you look to the north and you look to the west, and there's wetlands on both sides.
yeah.
The road's never going to be a four-way intersection, so it really doesn't make sense to have that corner looking like that. It's just crazy, really. I think you could probably change that to a 40-foot radius, which is a 70-foot radius on the outside, and just have it as a corner instead of having that sharp corner there. pretty easy. Without really changing any property lines or anything like that.
Either you guys have any concerns with that?
I don't have a concern with it. If you guys want to
I mean, it's
volunteer
it's
that.
less pavement to rebuild as well, so
Okay.
seems.
Yeah. Certainly open to it.
I think I'm in agreement that the changes that you made with the emergency connection and the driveway off of Rochester are better for fire department, they're better for everybody, I think. So I think I'm in agreement with that. So I think the only major thing was the stormwater report, really. Everything else is more or less either addressed or can be addressed relatively easily. Is that correct? Did you guys talk to Underwood and see how long it would take them to do a review?
They were asking that this morning, so I think they're just getting started this week. I don't know. I haven't heard back since.
Okay.
Neil, you haven't heard
I haven't
anything
heard
else
anything.
today? No.
Just the one email this morning, yeah.
The intersection of Lee and Aviation, you should document that trucks can make that corner, because that looks very similar to the
Yeah,
Stratton and
the-
Rochester corner.
The package we had uploaded on Friday, we had added that movement to it has to cross into the opposite lane to make the corner, but it's tight, but
Most of our fuel deliveries to the airfield come through that intersection, and they're big semi-trailer.
Yeah. I don't know, is it,
They don't have an issue. They don't seem to have an issue.
yeah, but so it's in the packet, I just haven't seen it yet then.
yeah, we had uploaded a revised package on Friday addressing the DPW comments.
Okay.
So I don't know if that made it out or not because the holiday, but we did add it, yeah.
All right. Yeah, maybe it's worth, enlarging a corner there or somewhere if it's needed. I'll take a look at that.
Pat, go ahead.
Just curious, building's going to be not open to the public, it's just going to be basically employees and then people coming for deliveries?
That's correct.
Yep. What's the purpose or the need for the access gate for the emergency as opposed to just signage?
I think it's just to keep pedestrian or passenger vehicles from entering the loading area.
But that would be employees for the most part.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if that could be controlled without the gate. I mean, we just prefer not to have a gate, and when we have them, where it makes sense, if it's necessary. Is it necessary?
Pat, the only thing I would say there is that, Evan Tormey with Tidemark Development Group here, and, it's mostly employees, but you're going to have people who are showing up to interview for jobs. People first show up there, first couple of weeks. We just want to keep that traffic separate, and I think the tenant would like to keep it separate. They're going to, over the course of operations, they will have non-employees visiting the site from time to time, whether maybe it's somebody from corporate who's flying in, somebody applying for a job, things like that. So just to keep those two parking areas separate, but allow for the connection for you folks.
And that'll be a lock gate.
Yeah, we would have a key for you in a Knox box.
It wouldn't be electric, it would just be a manual gate, I assume?
Just we
Swinging
were
gate?
calling for a swinging
Yeah,
manual gate there.
what's on the plans right now is just a swing gate.
Okay, yeah. Instead of a Knox box, the key, just using that Knox padlock.
Yeah.
All right.
I think to the, just jumping back to the truck traffic, one thing that should also be pointed out, it was included, I think, in the traffic memo, but, the folks driving these box trucks, making these deliveries are employees of the tenant, Fidelitone, and so they can instruct their employees, which roads to use here. And so I think, to Mike and Joe's point, including that information in the ground lease to make sure that gets passed through so it is enforced by Fidelitone, the tenant, with their employees to keep that truck traffic going down Lee and Aviation.
Is there any other truck traffic on Stratham today that would be affected by closing it off to truck traffic?
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah, the main access is down Aviation Ave to that general vicinity of the trade port.
Yeah.
It's a nice big straight shot right down there to Gate 16 where most of our access is to the airfield.
This one's not gonna move. This is the one that's gonna move. It's gonna line up right here. It's gonna be right there.
I mean, the only other business back there is IAPP, and they're just passenger cars.
This one.
Lonza's in 68 New Hampshire,
In the curve.
and that's just passenger cars, although they do have a loading dock in the front along Stratham Street. So there might be some traffic down that road.
Yeah, it's gonna stay there, probably.
Okay. I'll check with our legal department too on the truck restrictions, whether or not that would have to go through city council.
Okay, and I'll check with our legal department too. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the applicant side, we're fine either way. So I guess let us know, and
Yeah.
we'll remove them or we'll leave them.
Okay.
We had just defaulted to the previously approved package. so-
Yeah, I just don't remember. I must have missed it last time, but I don't remember seeing the signs last time.
Yeah, it wasn't a request that was from TAC, so we probably added them to the plans, and one of those things where if you're not directed to it, you might not notice it, so happens.
All right, any other comments from TAC members?
One more thing, Zach just noticed.
Yeah. So our comment of moving the truck entry, we'd assumed that it would also move proposed sewer manhole 1 out of the curb line. It is directly in the curb line there at the driveway, so we hadn't mentioned it. But
Can you just change that curb, Neil, so that the curbing goes between the drain manhole and the proposed sewer manhole? This is the driveway that's across from B Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
so-
got your curb line going right through the sewer manhole,
Yeah.
and that can't happen, obviously, so
Yeah.
just go between the two manholes with the curbing and fatten out that driveway. That'll help with the trucks trying to get out of here anyway.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
and that's moving, so that'll be fine.
Does that driveway on Rochester get moved away from the intersection of Newfields? Ivan?
Yeah, we shifted it 30 feet north, maybe? Yeah, so on the plan that's on the screen, there's a manhole right in the center of it. That manhole is now maybe 10 feet to the left of it. So it lines up with the driveway on New Hampshire now. So it's a straight shot from New Hampshire back to Rochester.
Yeah, much better.
So that manhole will now be in the grass?
Yes.
Okay.
So who would be using that driveway? Everybody's going in and out on Lee.
Hard to say.
We'll have trucks coming in and out of each of those driveways, for
I
sure.
think trucks will use both of the Rochester driveways.
So they're using something other than aviation, or how do they get to that point?
Rochester to Lee. Out of either one of those driveways.
So the truck traffic will be coming up New Hampshire Ave to get to Rochester, or? I'm still not clear on how they're gonna get to that second driveway.
Well, the box trucks aren't necessarily having to use
Yeah.
Lee Street. They could use Summersworth Street to go to Rochester Street and pull into that other driveway.
Okay, I see.
And that way, if Lee Street's under construction or something, there's another way out of the parking lot.
I think stuff too, like one of the bays is a trash compactor, so trash pickup might use a secondary access, and if there's other larger trucks pulling into the site at the same time.
Okay. And my concern really was that it was close to the new field, so as long as you're moving it away.
Yeah, we moved it away.
Yep.
All right, I think we're ready to open up for any public comment. Sure, come on up, state your name.
My name is Bob Dion. I live in Greenland on Tuttle Lane. I'm a member of the Greenland Planning Board. I'm the chairman. And I have a couple of clarification questions about these. I'm unable to see which way is north. So when you talk about trucks exiting exclusively on the south, I don't know what you're talking about. Can somebody clarify that for me?
So the way this plan on the screen is oriented, north is to the right, south is to the left.
Okay.
There's the arrow on the top right of the plan.
Yeah, I couldn't see that before.
Okay, yep.
Is there a layout showing where this is within the overall domain of a PDA?
Not. No, that's just a locus map. Nothing in this package. The
Is it south of the main gate to the air guard terminal or north?
South. So here's the,
It shows on the cover sheet. kind of.
here's the cover sheet has it. And then we are talking about this site right here. There you go. Across from Seacoast Meeting.
Okay,
better map than
So IAPP is here.
okay, I know where that
Visa
is.
Center's down here.
Yep.
And then to the north is Exeter Street and the terminal parking lot.
Okay, and where's your site again?
We got
Right here.
map up
There's a
on the
map
screen.
up on the screen.
Right there, too.
Oh, great. Thank you. Okay, so when trucks exit from the facility to the south, they are going past the golf course?
Yes.
Okay. When this facility is up at full capacity, how many trucks are going to be going out of there a day? 34?
Yeah, four tractor trailers and 30 home delivery trucks.
Home delivery trucks out once each per day?
Yes.
So they're not going in and out 7 times a day to refill?
They're not. So the end user is Fidelitone. They're a logistics company, but they will use this facility exclusively for a final user, and we can't disclose who that is, but it is a global, very well recognized household brand name, and the box trucks go out with large pieces of home furnishings. And that's important because what it means is they do white glove delivery and installation services on those home furnishings, and it takes them all day. So they're out all day, leave at 5 a.m. and come back at 5 p.m. But the nature of the inventory that's handled by this facility is not such that they need to go back time after time again throughout the course of each day.
Okay, thank you. So we experience every day, every work week day in Greenland, significant traffic congestion on Route 33. From Post Road, which is where the Dunkin' Donuts is, all the way down to Stratham Hill Park. That whole length is congestion. In the morning, heading eastbound on 33, we get traffic backups bumper to bumper as far as a mile from the Winnicott Bridge back into Stratham. And in the afternoon, we get traffic backups from the Winnicott Bridge, 3/4 of a mile bumper to bumper back up to Post Road. My personal experience is getting out on that road and trying to get access to it on a good day. If somebody's feeling generous and lets me out, it takes probably 2 minutes to get onto the road. And on a bad day, it can take as much as 4. That kind of a delay would cause aggravation for ambulance drivers and safety vehicles. So my question is, what do your traffic studies show is the impact of this facility fully built out and the aggregate with all the other new facilities that are going in at Pease? What is the impact on traffic on Route 33?
So, just for a little bit of context, the current site approval for this site, the traffic study that was done as part of that included a daily total of 996 total trips. This amended approval has a total daily trips of 288, which is a significant reduction over what we currently have approved. The other thing is, and as I had mentioned previously, because the hours of operation are 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., the AM trips are primarily between 5 and 6 a.m. The peak hour is between 7 and 9 a.m., and in that 7 to 9 a.m. range, we have 5 trips entering the site. Same thing on the peak. The majority of the trips out are before the typical PM peak hour, and those are a total of 20 trips in the 4 p.m. hour and 30 in the 5 p.m., which is, again, a significant reduction over the current approval for this site.
You said you have 30 home delivery vehicles, but you said you have only 5 going out in that morning hour?
5 coming in.
5 coming
During
in.
the peak hour, because they arrive, the employees arrive to the site before the typical peak hour of normal work traffic. Normal peak hour is between 7 and 9 a.m. The peak for this site is between 5 and 7 a.m. So it's ahead of the morning commute rush. Same thing when they leave for the day, they're leaving typically before the normal PM peak rush.
What do you think the normal PM peak rush is?
It's normally between 4 and 6. I don't know what the exact.
I would agree with
is.
both of those peak rushes from personal observation and not from being a traffic engineer. Do we have any information about what the aggregate effect of all the new development at Pease is going to be on Route 33? There's a lot of development going on, as you all know. We've got Lonza, we've got Sig Sauer, we've got Millionaires. There's a lot of stuff going on. Do we know what that traffic impact is going to be? And is our traffic delays going to increase once all these facilities are operating?
I mean, that's outside the scope of this project.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of addressing the board here on that question. I know you guys can only answer part of it. But it's important that you see what the issues are.
I lived in Newmarket for 6 years. I drove that road every day.
Yeah, I know you. Okay, that's the road. So with all the truck traffic going out to the south, it's not going north towards Route 16, it's going south. Is any of it going on Route 33?
Likely, but again, the trucks, so the employees show up to the site between 5 and 7 a.m., get their loaded truck, and they're leaving when everyone else is coming in. So again, they're going opposite of the peak. So yeah, they'd be heading down to that intersection and then either going north or south from there, depending on where they're delivering the load to.
So I have a question. You said the large trucks, so the 18-wheelers are coming in from the south. Does that restrict the delivery trucks from heading to the north or not? Would they exclusively head to the south, or are they able to go north as well?
I think the idea would be all trucks would be going south.
Is that in agreement with PDA?
It is.
All right.
So what do we think is the aggregate effect of all of this new development on traffic on Route 33?
The questions you're raising are legitimate and good questions, but it's a public comment session. It's not, we can't give you a collective answer to that. That's a good question to raise here, a good question to raise at the planning board and at the PDA board as well.
Okay, so how do I raise that question at the appropriate places?
You could go speak at public comment, or you can write a letter.
This was public comment right now, isn't
Right,
it?
so you raised it. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
Not a question and answer session, so
Yeah.
we've been, lenient on that, but typically comments are made, and we're just an advisory board anyway. We don't even make the decisions ultimately.
You could advise that it's an issue.
Mike, PDA has done traffic studies of the whole campus before in the past, right?
We have.
Yep. It's-
We started in the 90s with a surface transportation master plan. We did an update to that in early 2000. We did another update to that in 2010. We did traffic counts in 2016 to see where traffic stood on the trade port. Our on-call consultant identified, I think, 7 different intersections that they want us to prioritize as far as level of service goes, and that's what we focus on. City of Portsmouth, through our municipal services agreement, is required to maintain our roads, which they do. And for the Peace Development Authority to spend any money or study anything off the trade port is considered a diversion of revenue by the FAA. And we can't do it. We're not allowed to do it. It's an NHDOT road. They have jurisdiction.
I believe the first study that was done for the previous project that was approved did look at all the other developments going on in the area. And
Yeah, and so did Lonza, and Lonza's going to do it again. Primarily, they're focused on the trade port, but they do go off the trade port occasionally to help out the applicant move the applications forward. You understand that there's slow times of the day, and it's taken into account by DOT. I'm sure they're studying the intersections.
So the last study you did was 2016?
Last update.
Update, okay. So that's not a complete study, that's just a...
No, they identified a certain number of intersections that we need to keep our eye on, and then after 10 years, we said, all right, let's go take a look at those intersections to see if they've met the projections. And then we had COVID, and that just killed all the traffic numbers. And from what we understand, I mean, you still drive through the trade port, there's still a bunch of empty parking lots out there. We haven't gotten back to pre-pandemic levels as far as traffic goes on the trade port. We're currently in the process of designing a intersection improvement at New Hampshire Ave, Arboretum Drive, and Peace Boulevard to add a right turn lane on New Hampshire Ave to reduce congestion and improve air quality. We've also got a couple grants coming our way for the intersection at the golf course and Grafton Drive, as well as the main intersection at International Drive and Corporate Drive. Those projects haven't started yet. They're probably a couple years out because they're federally funded, but we have got notified that. So those are the things that we typically do on the trade port. We monitor all the intersections and provide improvements when they're required, and the city maintains the roads just to keep them up to speed, up to date. And that's how it works at the trade port.
Well, if I may, I'd like to just conclude my comments by saying that on Route 33, we have either 5 or 7, I forget which it is, 5 or 7 intersections which are cited by the state to be in failure mode because of the traffic congestion. That's not good. So, thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Anyone on Zoom, you can like to make any public comment? Not seeing your hand raised, we'll close the public comment portion. Any further discussion?
So the revised plans are available for us to see, the ones that were submitted Friday?
Were they uploaded to
they're
Viewpoint?
uploaded.
They were uploaded, yeah.
So that's on Viewpoint?
That's on, yeah.
You're going to make a few more revisions.
Yep.
And really, the big question is whether the third-party reviewer can get the stormwater review done prior to the planning board. And really, that's the only sticking point, as I see it. Most of the other issues supposedly have been addressed. I haven't seen them, but... When's the planning board meeting? It's 2 weeks?
The July planning board is the 20th, but the August planning board is the 15th.
So it would be the August planning board they'd go to if it got approved by TAC. Usually it's staggered a month.
Well, I think it's probably likely that Underwood can get the review done by August 15th, right?
It's likely, yeah, they said they're probably going to, well, I don't know if they said they're going to start this week. They were asking today about it, so. Yeah,
When do we
so-
need the packets to go out for the planning board?
So,
For the August meeting, they will go out, likely the, let me see.
was it the meeting on the 21st or something?
The meeting's on the 15th, so they'll go out. They'll go out the 11th, but
We'd probably advertise on like the 1st of August or so.
no, sorry, the meeting is the 17th, so the packet will go out the 11th.
Yeah. So they usually advertise, you got to advertise about a week or so before, so. If it went to the planning board, it could be postponed, but it would mean you guys have to take on the, ownership of going through it, making sure it's okay, obviously.
Yeah, I understand that, but I think we went through most of the things here today. We want to look at driveways. We want to look at that corner revision, which I think we can commit to. I think we can do that, right? Probably?
Yeah.
As long as we get a response by Underwood, we can probably do a review the first week of August, and
Right, and our TAC meeting in August is August 1st, so.
So you're saying that they could go to the August TAC meeting but still make the August planning board? Is what you're saying?
We probably wouldn't put them on the planning board for August typically, unless they, we'd put them on, in the August meeting, we put them on for September. That's typically how it works.
in light of what we went through today, I think I'm going to recommend that we move this forward, assuming that we have the Underwood report back. We could have a discussion about it first week of August. And if we don't have it back, we don't have it back, but
Yep. Yeah, and we can either put it on the planning board agenda or hold it on the, we might even have time to not even advertise it on the planning board agenda. If we have to advertise it, they can postpone it if you haven't had a chance to review it.
is that workable?
I think the condition has to be subject to DPW's approval of the stormwater report and the other issues that were raised in the comments from DPW.
Are you guys on board to do that?
Yeah, I think we got time.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make that recommendation then.
Second.
All right, any further discussion?
When is it, where are we at now with CMMP? Where does that take place? In planning board? Is that when it gets to be required?
After they get approved by planning board.
After they're approved by planning board, then it's an automatic condition that all,
I don't know.
I don't know that
every
this
single-
in other words,
Project
who's been instigating, who's been initiating that in deciding whether or not the project meets the threshold for CMMP?
Planning department.
Department,
Usually decides,
okay.
yep.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
We certainly can prepare one for you, Shanti.
Oh, yeah, and not worried about it. I just know that we talked about it a while ago, and we always said, or even when it first started, oh, no, that comes about during TAC. But really, it doesn't, because,
No.
yeah. Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you for your time.
I think, Shanti, we've had times where
Right.
TAC has recommended there be a CMMP,
Yeah, that's probably.
just to make sure.
Okay.
We are adjourned.
Right.